we've got to talk about AI in Call of Duty. Now, I've got to say, overall, I've enjoyed Modern Warfare 2, and I think the excitement about upgraded features like better audio, better gunplay, more recoil, and better balancing mean that Warzone 2 and DMZ should also be a treat. But there's a big problem, and that is the artificial intelligence. Now, yes, this is a beta, and the AI in this game aren't going to probably get better by launch, and they'll probably be using a combination of machine learning and a few other things to try and overall improve the behavior of artificial intelligence. But for me personally, I don't think the problem with the AI in Call of Duty stems from whether or not they're good or bad. It just stems from the fact that there's no reason to really have it. I think the problem is that Call of Duty were obviously very aware that they could implement AI into the game. But nobody ever really asked the question of whether or not they should. Call of Duty is a complex game. We have Warzone, DMZ, and we have multiplayer. So it's worth talking about AI in all of those three instances separately. Now, in multiplayer, I don't think these things should exist at all. It's really obvious to me early on that AI in multiplayer aren't going to offer anything to the experience. They're frustrating, they lack consistency, they cause problems and bugs, and also they just aren't that enjoyable. There is nothing to enjoy about killing a random AI, and when you see 1 point appear on the screen, it just seems like a waste of time. There have been a load of incidents in the AI segment of Call of Duty Multiplayer's invasion mode where they become more problematic than beneficial. I've had instances where they morph through buildings and just randomly teleport into a building. I've had instances where some of them with shotguns or sniper rifles are weirdly lethal whilst the rest of them are weirdly tame. And I've also had instances where they end up sponging bullets or do weird animations that you don't anticipate that the average player wouldn't do, meaning that they take up more rounds. You only realize partway through that they are an artificial intelligence by the time you've realized another real player has decided to shoot you in the head. I've had all sorts of problems with AI in the invasion mode. I've had issues where they have targeted me in the match because I was either too far forward or because I was close to where they were spawning and they decided to descend upon me with shotguns and snipers. Now yes, they're easy to kill, but if a shotgun AI teleports into your room at random, which does happen, you might actually get unlucky, or maybe they put you down to a low enough health level that if a real player comes in, you're as good as dead. I've had some with sniper rifles just flat out kill me instantly, without having any time to respond in any way, shape, or form. And again, the question here isn't about whether or not they're good, whether or not they're consistent, whether or not they aren't glitchy or buggy. The question is, what was the point of adding them? I don't think anybody would rather play against an AI than a real player unless they are really, really low on the KD level. But Call of Duty has hyper-aggressive skill-based matchmaking. So if that were a problem, then surely SBMM should surely be addressing that already. The last good implementation of artificial intelligence I saw was Titanfall 2's multiplayer. And even then, they didn't really add much to the experience, and most people just generally kind of avoided them. For me, AI implementation comes down to three things: immersion, stimulation, or practicality. They're either an immersive experience like they were in Titanfall 2, and I'm afraid in their current implementation in Modern Warfare they simply aren't. There are lots of instances of them just not looking normal at all. They're either a stimulation method where, you know, an average player or an average Joe can pick up more kills than he probably would if it was regular players. But again, Modern Warfare 2 has really aggressive SBMM, so that shouldn't be a reason for why AI are implemented. And the last one is practicality. It's a feature that ties into a specific thing, or maybe it offers a very specific experience. And in my view, that can make sense in DMZ and Warzone, but I don't see anything that they would offer in multiplayer, and I think that is a major issue. So in multiplayer, honestly, I would just write them off completely. Ground War 32 versus 32 was a far better experience than Invasion, and ultimately I know both of these modes will be available, but it just felt like AI just should avoid the field as much as possible. And I guess really to some extent in multiplayer, choosing Invasion or choosing Ground War is a choice, and you have that choice as to whether or not you want to play with AI. So I guess in some sense that isn't really a major criticism of the game. If you don't want to play with them, you don't have to. but I think I wouldn't want to see them in any other grand scale modes. But then we get to DMZ and Warzone 2. We're going to start with Warzone 2 because obviously we know a lot more about that, and I'm far more familiar with Warzone than I am with DMZ. But in Warzone 2, I don't think AI should be present at all, except for the stronghold scenario or event-based scenarios. As it presently stands, it appears that random AI are just prevalent throughout the entire map. They're just sometimes randomly in buildings, they appear all over the place, and they can weirdly change the flow of a Warzone game because you're entering a building that you're going to use in the final circle or whatever, and there's just a random AI with a weapon or a shotgun. And it isn't necessarily a bother, you probably will kill them quite quickly, but they've exposed your position, maybe they shoot one of you and it causes some damage, you lose a couple of plates. They're just an inconvenience. Now, they do make sense in the stronghold scenario. AI on strongholds, especially decent AI as well, that protect high loot areas is not a bad idea, and I'm all behind that level of implementation. But having them randomly scattered around the map is when the problems start to begin. I mean, just imagine you're in the final zone. It's you and 2 or 3 other teams, and you walk into a building and there's an AI there with a shotgun, and he shoots one of you and takes your plates off. Maybe you don't have more plates to give out to each other. Maybe another guy from another team fires into the building at the same time, and suddenly you go down far quicker than expected. These are all scenarios that could happen. And that is a big concern, because consistency in Warzone is what makes or breaks the entire experience. When Warzone's inconsistent, it isn't enjoyable. So strongholds, it makes sense, and also when you activate a certain in-game event. For example, the Doomsday crates in Warzone 1. Now, the AI are a little bit, well, stupid, and they don't really offer anything in terms of a threat, but they're there at least, and you expect them to be there. And you expect them to be there because you've activated something to make that the case, rather than just having them randomly scattered all over the place. So in Warzone 2, having AI could be really problematic. I entirely agree with strongholds and events, but everywhere else they don't make any sense, especially considering that AI do consume server-side resources, and less AI theoretically could mean a higher player count, better tick rate, or just general less performance impact on both client-side and server-side. And the final place where arguably AI make the most sense is the DMZ mode. Now, for those of you who are unaware, DMZ is a little bit like Escape from Tarkov. It's an extraction-based shooter. You go in, you get out, and if you die in the field, theoretically you lose something of value, and if you escape, you might gain something of value. And in DMZ, they make a lot of sense. Now, Tarkov's AI is honestly pretty horrible. Most of them are just bullet spongy, or they weirdly one-bang you, and their implementation isn't fantastic. But I feel like Call of Duty could do it better. The combination of animations that we've seen in the game so far and certain AI behaviors prove to me that there is a chance that in time and with some machine learning or with some AI learning generally, the AI could be quite good in DMZ. And in an extraction shooter where everybody's taking it extremely slowly to avoid fighting each other or trying to get in and out as painlessly as possible, having AI in the mix to make things a little bit more challenging can definitely work, in a similar vein to how they work with scavs in Escape from Tarkov. Ultimately, I would really like AI systems where the AI's intelligence and behavior and how they operate doesn't entirely depend upon them being bullet sponges. I find a lot of games, rather than having good AI, they just go, yep, let's just make them all bullet sponges, like the tanky AI in Escape from Tarkov. But that's an entirely separate argument and question. But in DMZ mode, honestly, AI makes a lot of sense, and I think Call of Duty might actually be able to bring a really fun and intelligent implementation of that compared to anywhere else. In Warzone, they only make sense in certain places, and in multiplayer, I don't think they make any sense at all. But the bonus of multiplayer, of course, is that you have a choice. And that, I think, is the critical component around AI. And that's what I think summarizes this entire video very well. In every instance of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ, it should revolve around choice. In multiplayer right now, you don't have to engage with AI if you don't choose the invasion mode. And that's a really fantastic idea. In Warzone 2, things get a little bit more dicey. If they followed my implementation where it was event-based or only on strongholds, then you would have the choice in-game to avoid AI if you wanted to, rather than randomly running into them here and there. And in DMZ mode, where they make the most sense, you have a choice to either fight the AI when you run into them, or not fight them at all, or you could just not play DMZ if AI isn't your cup of tea, or even if extraction shooters aren't something you enjoy. The fantastic thing about this new era of Call of Duty with Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ is that they really are appealing to a lot of people on all fronts. Ground war, invasion, competitive 6v6, Warzone 2, extraction shooters, and allegedly a raiding kind of game mode akin to Destiny, I guess, what they're going for there. They have all of these options and all of these choices, and allowing you to choose and pick your experiences as you want, as opposed to having certain features like AI thrown upon you, I think ultimately makes for a better experience and is a far more appealing implementation than anything else. Now, I want to know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're interested in. Do you like the AI? Do you not like the AI? And of course, subscribe as well. We're super close to 100k, and I'll catch you again in the next one.